descriptor of what we have to journalize for payroll? What do we actually have to journalize to get into our financial statements? I think there was 2 journal entries that we had to make every time we ran payroll. Go ahead. One is to actually record the payroll, right? The gross wages. And then the second one is to do what? The cash is part of the gross wages. So I record the actual payroll, and then what do I have to do? I have to record the employer's payroll taxes. And these 2 journal entries are always the same in format. You must make both of them every time you issue any paycheck. So let's get out a piece of paper. Let's pencil out a journal, right, like we used in Accounting 101. And there's only 4 columns. Do you remember what they are? What's one thing? Date. Is that anybody math here? Are we down to 7 people? Katie's on. Who's here? Oh, Jessica. She's so sick. Yeah, okay, so let me put it on here. So you may just have a blank piece of paper I can use, and I'll put it on the flex scan. Okay. Okay, so let's set up our journal. And I think there's 4 columns, date, account description, debit, and credit, right? So this is a general journal, date, account title, debit, and credit. And obviously when you use any sort of software, it's going to have the exact same format. Okay, so we've got the journal set up. We've got to record a payroll. Where am I going to get the information with which to record the payroll? From the payroll register, okay? Got to record the payroll, and then I've got to record the employer's payroll taxes. On journal entry number 2, what are the 4 employer payroll taxes? OASDI, HI, FUTA, and SUTA. Employer's taxes. What comes out of my pocket as the employer? The fit and sit comes out of your check. That's a withholding tax. That's not my tax. So journal entry number 2 is only OASDI, HI, FUTA, and SUTA, right? Okay, so let's go back. We've got our journal all set up. Now let's go take a look at the example. There is only one debit in the first journal entry. It is a debit to wage expense. If you work in a big company or a huge company with lots of different departments or whatever, it might be, wage expense Kalamazoo and wage expense Youngstown and wage expense Detroit. But in our little simple examples, we're just going to debit wage expense. Does that end up on your profit and loss or balance sheet? Profit and loss or your income statement, right? Any revenues minus expenses is your income statement. Now, obviously debits have to equal credits. You remember that from Accounting 101. What balance do liability accounts have? Are they debit type or credit type accounts? They're credit type accounts. In other words, to make them get bigger, you credit them. Every single thing I take from your paycheck has to go into a liability account. Why? I owe it to somebody. If I held it out of your check, I got to give it to someone. FIT payable, SIP payable, FICA payable, pension payable, health insurance premiums payable, and on and on and on. The balancing credit is for the amount of the net paychecks, and I credit that to cash if I'm running the checks today, or I credit it to salaries payable if I plan on running the checks next week or whatever, because it has a review process.
So would you state that?
I would have to state that. You would assume cash unless, the only time it really goes to salaries payable is you're in a bigger company and it's got to go through a bunch of review and there's a period end somewhere in there, so you've got to issue accrual-based statements.
Or is that like you make like your entries this day, but then you actually end up paying?
4 days later, yeah. Okay. So with the journal you just made on your paper and the information I just gave you, you want to debit the gross. You need to indent, right? Remember how we do that? You indent and then credit each of the payables. So here's my debits, here's my credits, right? Account title. Say that I'm debiting, you know, XYZ account for $1,000, and then I want to credit something for 500 and credit something for 500. Then I put those here, right? They get indented a little bit, but you always have to make sure put in your journal entries. Yeah. So based on this payroll register and based on what I just told you, make the journal entry in the journal that you just wrote down, please. Debit wage expense, credit each withholding to a liability account. You indicate it's a liability by using the word payable in the title. And then you're actually cutting the checks for the net amount, right? Oh, great, today. I'm cutting it today. Okay, so one debit to wage expense, gross paycheck. There were 5 kinds of withholdings. And I don't care exactly how you wrote it. You could have written OASDI payable would be fine. I'm not picky at all. Other than on this last one, I would want to see the word payable. I don't know why they don't include it in the text. I have to make these slides compliant with the author's desires, but I want to see payable on every single liability, so I know that you know that it's a liability. And then, of course, I'm cutting a check for cash for the net paychecks. Not paycheck, a bunch of checks. Easy peasy. No creativity here. Not a ceramics class. You just do it the same every time and you will come up with the right answer. The payroll register can look different, but you've got to find the information in there somewhere and then just record it just like this. Literally the only difference you're going to see is based upon what, like when we were mucking around in QuickBooks, we saw in California, they had like a training tax and a disability insurance tax. Those are all just new categories. Okay, journal entry number 2. So you're on the same journal. Obviously, just go down a couple blocks. We're on journal entry number 2. This is the employer's out-of-pocket payroll tax expense. The debit is also to an account that shows up in the P&L, or the income statement, as you probably learned at Accounting 101. And that account title is payroll tax expense. In the book, for whatever reason, they don't write the word expense in the title. And again, I think that gets you into trouble. So where does the account go? What kind of account is it? Just write it right in the stinking title, payroll tax expense. And then what do you think you're going to credit? Go ahead.
Liabilities.
All the liabilities. OESCI payable, HI payable, FUTA payable, SUTA payable, right? The 4 kinds of taxes from the right side of the table that we looked at in the first week. So here's my payroll register. I wrote 2 checks, but obviously some people are tapping here for FUTA and SUTA. I did this work for you, but I don't have to. I could just tell you what FUTA and SUTA wages were. You only need one rate from me. What rate would I have to provide you to do this? SUTA. You know OESCI, you know HI, you know FUTA. I have to tell you the wages, and I have to tell you the SUTA rate. I've done the work for you on this one. Easy peasy. Can you jump right into payroll tax expense debit, or do you have to do a calculation first? I have to do the credits first. So go down a couple lines, indent your credits, line those up, and then add up. So second journal entry, add up all of the payables, and then that's your debit. Oop. That's your debit to payroll tax expense. Please be really mindful. You're not touching cash on this one, are you? How do you know when you deposit all these things? Am I going to write one big check next week? FUTA, SUTA, SET, DET, FICA. I can't answer that question. How do I know when to make my deposits?
Can't tell you.
Who tells me? Okay. Which one do I deposit with the IRS? Yeah, the 941, which is what? Say it. FICA, FICA, FIP. They tell me when to deposit my 941, they being the IRS. When do I deposit my 940? It depends on what. When it gets to 500 bucks. And you don't know the deposit rules for suitor or SIC yet because we haven't studied it. But suffice to say, in journal entry number 2, you do not touch cash. It's just purely an expense journal entry. Easy peasy. One debit payroll tax expense, credit each of your liabilities. You should not have 2 journal entries. One is for the payroll itself, one is for the payroll tax expense, right? Now what do you think is going to happen? You got to do what? You got to pay them. And you pay them according to the rules. You know the rules for 941. Well, I have to tell you what the IRS told you. So what's today, the 4th? Yeah, I'm pretty small. Do you think I'm going to be a semi-weekly or a monthly payer? Probably monthly. So date the journal entry to pay your 941 taxes. If you ran the payroll today, right, November 4th, and your monthly, because you're pretty small, and this is your only paycheck, you're really tiny, put date, so don't say it out loud, but write down the date you think you would need to deposit this for your 941 if you're monthly. And then looking at your journal entries above, make the 941 deposit. Let's walk through this together. If we're making the 941 deposit, what's happening to our liability accounts? Are they getting greater or smaller? Smaller, because I'm paying them off. How do we decrease a liability account, a debit or a credit? With the debit. And then I'm writing a check for it, right? So what happens to my cash account? I've got it, it goes down. How do I make a cash account without debit or credit? Got it. There's your journal entry. Date the deposit. Reduce your liabilities in the 941 payment. There's 3 accounts, right? And then credit the cash. You're just writing one check for the 941 deposit. The trick here is don't forget that there's an employee and an employer share of 2 of the taxes. Right? You're so cute. I just see your wheels spinning like, really? It's Monday morning. There's 2 places where you find 2 of the taxes. So when you make the debit, make sure to pick it up from both places. You have 3 debits and 1 credit.
I know, I'm like,
Where's the, let's see, sorry, it didn't, let me just go over to the Lexicam. Okay, so first off, if I ran that payroll on November 4th, and they're a monthly depositor, what date do I have to deposit by? December 15th, 15th of the following month. I ran the payroll on November 4th. Monthly depositors have to deposit by the 15th of the following month. What 3 accounts am I debiting? What's one of them, Tyler? Nope, I ran the payroll in journal entry 1. I recorded the payroll tax expense in journal entry number 2. All I'm doing now is depositing the cash.
So it's FICA.
FICA and FIT what? What account? Give me the specific name of one account I'm debiting. OASDI payable. There is an amount in that account that I am now paying. This is a liability account. It has a credit type balance. I'm reducing it because I'm paying it. What's another account I'm debiting? HI payable. And what's the third account I'm debiting? FIT. What am I crediting if I'm writing a check? Cash. Okay. How much am I debiting OASDI payable for? Yep, because look, here's part of it from the actual amount I took out of your checks, right? But then what do I have to do with OASDI as the employer? I got to match it. You've got to pick up that 114.39 employee plus employer, and you know that. 228.78. Same with the HI. Now, do I have to pick up FIT from 2 places? No. What's my FIT? This is the amount that I write the check for. And then my debits equal my credits. And then my account balance is 0, and I start all over again. Okay, you've got your journal entries or your journal set up, right? Let's take a look at another payroll register. and see if you can do what you just did again. Your homework for Chapter 6 will reinforce this, as will the review. Okay? Let's see, practice journal entry. Okay, I've got a payroll that I'm running on the 2nd of January. Okay. 6 employees, right? Here's their hourly wages, hours, gross pay, taxes. One of them had an advance that they're paying back. Most of them obviously are paying some sort of insurance premium. And then their net checks are over in the far right-hand column. Journalize this payroll. No one is capped for SPUDA or SUDA, and the SUDA rate is 3.96%. You've got the same 2 journal entries. First, record the gross payroll, and secondly, record the payroll taxes. And I am going to go ahead and turn off the recording, Jess. This actual Excel spreadsheet is in the Chapter 6 Moodle area, and there's a key below it, so you can check your work.
Are you thinking about salary, wages, expense versus wages, expense?
Yeah,